Thanks, no fees, no inflation. These are the potential perks of this thing called Bitcoin. But is Bitcoin really the money of the future?
Bitcoin.
All the rage, but what the hell is it?
Bitcoin is better than currency.
There's a big industry around Bitcoin, and people have made fortunes out of Bitcoin.
The technical answer in Bitcoins is that Bitcoins is a remarkable cryptographic achievement.
It is a huge deal. It's a huge, huge, huge deal.
If people have got lots of Bitcoins and they want to go to space, I'd much rather they spent that money on our spaceship.
I mean, I own Bitcoin in my hedge fund. I own Bitcoin in my fund. I own Bitcoin.
In the next 15 years, digital banking will bring basic financial services and security to millions. It will give the poor more control over their assets and help transform their lives. First key point is that banking is very important, that if you have a medical need or you want to pay your kid's school fee, you need to be able to save and plan, or you need to be able to borrow to meet that need. And if you're poor, sometimes you just can't meet the need. You pull your kid out of school, that's very inefficient. Let's say 6 months later you can put them back in, they're behind. You buy a cow thinking you'll get productivity, but then you're short, so you lose a lot of money when you sell it. The kind of financial flexibility that we take for granted in rich countries about loans and savings, once you're getting down and you're very poor, that's not available. Part of it is that the fixed cost of ATM machines and bank tellers and all that means that small transactions are money losing in the old system. In the new digital realm, where we take and build a debit card equivalent that's just your cell phone, there even 50-cent type transactions, you can have an under 2% fee. And so it starts to be economic to bank the very poorest. There's a need for a utility type service that lets you move money when you want to pay someone else, pay a store, or if you want to switch your account from bank one to bank two. And so a lot of our work to get this low-cost digital debit card using the cell phone going is making sure the regulator has set up the right safeguards, and that includes a money transfer system that has very low fees and insisting that every bank that's licensed connect up and have these reasonable fees. It's kind of like phone number portability is in the mobile space, that you can switch a carrier and not have to change that phone number. Otherwise, you get a lock-in where the poorest who have less time to pay attention may not be paying a fair price. So some of these systems that got going early on actually don't have this capability, nor is it open as a platform so that innovators can come in and get this into the most pro-poor form we can. By 2030, mobile banking will be so freely available that an additional 2 billion people will use these services.
Bill Gates, we know him from Microsoft. We now know him for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill, it's great to see you. Great to see you here in particular because we know the Gates Foundation for its work on infectious diseases, child health, nutrition, agriculture, education, the list goes on. Why does Bill Gates care about finance?
Well, it's all about helping the poorest. And one thing they don't have access to is bank accounts. The fee structure, if you have small amounts of money, is just too high. And we got involved in some traditional microlending, but just didn't see how that could scale up and get inexpensive enough. So now we're involved in trying to make sure we get a very efficient digital payment structure set up for all the poorest in the world to get financial products that work for them.
What are you doing?
The idea is that typically through the cell phone, you should be able to send money to your relatives. You should be able to track the money that's coming in, set aside money to buy seeds the next year. And there are countries where this is beginning to take off. Kenya, Bangladesh, even Somalia, maybe the last country you'd suspect up in Somaliland, almost half of the GDP is done digitally.
I don't need to tell you that the poor have been unbanked for as long as there have been banks. Why is this time different?
Well, it's really the digital revolution. The poorest have bought cows, stored gold, put currency under their mattress, but they are getting cell phones. And the cell phone capability of identifying who's using the cell phone, letting you look at your spending patterns, that's going to be common sense. People are going to have help and lots of innovative products competing on top of this digital currency platform.
So if technology, mobile phones for example, digital money, helps to increase access to financial services at the same time as it lowers the cost of delivery, why is philanthropy needed?
Philanthropy should just be here to bootstrap this. There are a lot of regulations in this area, and understanding how those regulations can make the cost of remittances, where you're sending money back to your family in your country of origin, how right now that has about a 5% overhead on it. We think we have a role to make sure that, particularly for the smaller transactions, the regulations don't impose those very high costs. Once this gets going, then we'll step up to the applications and say, okay, what is, how does a savings application help the mother make sure money's focused on the kids? How does it help them stay in school, set money aside for the uniform or for good future planning?
Some of what you just described, the need to move money from place to place, the cost of doing so, the overhead, as you put it, makes me think, believe it or not, of Bitcoin, because some people have said, hey, Bitcoin is the answer to those problems. Are you a believer?
Well, Bitcoin is exciting because it shows how cheap it can be. Bitcoin is better than currency in that you don't have to be physically in the same place. And of course, for large transactions, currency can get pretty inconvenient. The customers we're talking about aren't trying to be anonymous. They're willing to be known. So the Bitcoin technology is key, and you could add to it, or you could build a similar technology where there's enough attribution that people feel comfortable. This has nothing to do with terrorism or any type of money laundering.
What kinds of people or private enterprises right now are helping to solve the same problems you're interested in?
Well, in some countries, the mobile companies have been fantastic. In a few other companies, it's been the banks. In some countries, it's a startup company that's neither a bank nor a mobile company. In Bangladesh, the bKash offering runs across any phone, and they've gotten the regulations so that they have a product that we think will get very, very pervasive. So entrepreneurs are there. The enablement this creates, if you want to put in, say, electricity in a city, collecting your bills is one of the reasons why the underspending of infrastructure in these areas is a real thing holding back the economy.
You mentioned banks. Are the legacy institutions, for the most part, banks, credit card companies, payment processors, friend or foe?
Many of them want to have these additional customers, but they have to embrace the idea that the fees are going to be a lot lower. And so they have to find a way to service these new customers. Now, that means these customers aren't going to be coming into their branches, and they can charge a higher fee when you want to actually cash out. But if it's a pure digital transaction, then you should be paying less than 1% to move that money from you to a merchant or from you to a friend, even with meeting all the regulatory requirements.
I'm honored that the International Telecommunications Union has chosen me for this prestigious award. Well, unfortunately, I'm not able to join you in person for the 150th anniversary celebration. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about how your work contributes to a breakthrough that will improve the lives of the world's poorest over the next 15 years and beyond. That breakthrough, which Melinda and I highlighted in our annual foundation letter this year, is the use of digital banking to give the poor more control of their assets and help them transform their lives. Historically, people at the lowest income levels have had to make difficult choices about how to use their limited financial resources. That's partly because they don't have access to banks that can help them use those resources effectively. As mobile digital technologies spread to even the poorest and most remote regions of the world, we have an opportunity to reach this underserved population and bring it into the global economy with expanded access to savings accounts, lines of credit, and other financial services. For their part, financial service providers can profit from serving these customers because the marginal cost of processing digital transactions is near zero. In other words, these technologies can make the expansion of financial access a winning proposition for everyone. Now, for the world to seize this opportunity, we need the innovation and expertise of the global telecommunications industry. And that's where the ITU can play a central role. By encouraging greater technical standardization in the digital financial services sector, by improving the quality, reliability, and security of services in low-income countries, by providing a better coordination between telecommunications authorities and financial service regulators, and by advocating simpler, more intuitive mobile technologies to ensure wider use by individuals who may be illiterate or unfamiliar with digital systems. For 150 years, the ITU has helped build an ever more connected global economy. By making it possible for the poor to join that economy, you're adding to the proud legacy of the organization. Thank you very much for this great honor, and congratulations on your 150th anniversary.